Stop talking. Quadratic equations. Okay. Guys, this is standard form of the quadratic equation. Everybody calls it standard form that I know of, except for our textbook. Our textbook likes to call it general form. So when it says general form, know that it's talking about standard form. Standard form is when the y or the 0 is alone. All the variable numbers, the variables with coefficients are on one side, and the constant is on the same side. And so this is really quick. You guys probably don't need to write all this stuff, but this is a quick review. Can you identify the A, B, and C in the following quadratic equations? So check out this first one right here. This first one. What is the A? It is -3, definitely. You guys are pretty good at this. Okay, so that's a -3. And don't include the x, because the x is the variable part. I just want the coefficients. What is the B? -3. Oh, you're pretty good. I'm going to try to trick you now. What is the C? Oh, wait. Dang it. You guys are jerks. Okay, so I didn't trick you there. It is a -8. And some of you guys are like, what? Wait a second. That's not positive. Are my eyes going crazy? No, you got to subtract 8 from both sides so that it equals 0. And then you have -3x squared minus 3x minus 8. So it's a -8. Now, if I were to work with this quadratic equation, if I had to solve that, there's a lot of negatives there. In fact, they're all negatives. What I would probably do is I'd multiply or divide by -1 so that I'd have no more negatives. Or some of you guys are thinking, oh, just move them all to the other side. Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, all right, next one. This one right here. The 5x squared equals x. What is the A? It is 5. What's the B? It is -1. That's right, because you would subtract the x from both sides. What is the C? 0. Okay, so we have, let's see, we'll go subtract x, just so you guys can see it. We have 5x squared minus x equals, what's x minus x? 0. Okay. All right, last one. We'll change it to the purple pen. What is the A?
3.
It is 3. What is the B?
5.
What is the C?
-4.
Yeah, this one's too similar to the first one. I gotta change that. Whatever. So that's standard form or general form for quadratic equations. Now, there's 3 different ways to solve a quadratic equation. We have the zero property, we have the quadratic formula, and we also have square roots. And we're about to get busy with these. First, let's take a look at the zero property. Okay, the zero property says that if you have 2 numbers multiplying together, if you have 2 numbers multiplying together like this, so you have a number here and a number here, they're called factors. If you have 2 factors multiplying together and they equal 0, that means one of them has to be 0. One of them has to be. So like if you had x and a y right here, either the x equals 0 or the y equals 0. That's what the zero property says. If it's written in factored form, one of those factors has to equal 0. So I actually have 2 solutions here. I have x equals 0 and y equals 0. So let's take this and apply it to our quadratic equations. All right, so here we go. We have 3 different quadratic equations that we need to solve. And we're going to solve this using the zero property. So for the first one, this is not written in factored form. What we have to do is we have to take it and write it in factored form. That's possible. The first thing you want to always check for is the greatest common factor. That's what they call it. So you look at these 2 terms right here, the x squared and the x, and you ask yourself, what can I divide both of those terms by, if I can? Yeah, divide it by x. So you take an x out, and then inside the parentheses you write what you have left after you divide them both by x. X squared divided by x is what? X. What's x divided by x? 1. So I have x times x plus 1. There are my 2 factors. So my question is, what does x have to be for this factor to be 0? Yeah, so one of your answers is x equals 0. What does x have to be for this one to be 0? -1. So this one is -1. Ah, not bad, eh? Now, if your teacher first taught you how to do this, they said, take this and set them equal to 0. Okay, I don't like steps though. I want you guys to understand why you're doing that. You're doing that. You're setting them equal to 0s because you're trying to find out what's going to make that factor 0 and what's going to make that factor 0. Now, you don't always just have 2 factors. Sometimes there's 3 factors. Sometimes there's 4 factors. Check out this next one. Is there is there a greatest common factor for all those numbers? Yeah, x. I can take an x out of all of these. And so I show that I take an x out by putting an x right there outside of the parentheses. What is x to the third power divided by x? That is x squared. And then you get plus 3x plus 2. And this equals 0. Now, is it finished being factored? Heck no, foos. We have a trinomial right here. Now, not all trinomials are factorable, but the ones that you're going to work with right now are. Now, if they're not factorable, then you're going to have to use a different method to solve it. You're going to have to use the quadratic formula, or maybe even the square roots by completing the square. But this one is definitely factorable, because I'm trying to show you guys how to use a zero property. All right. Now, some of you guys might not remember how to do this. I'm going to remind you. This is what I think in my head. I put a big X in my head. Actually, I don't. I just think, okay, 1 times 2 is 2, so that goes on top, and the 3 goes on the bottom. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 2, add to give me 3. What are they? 1 and 2. Now, because there's a 1 right here for the leading coefficient, I do not have to do grouping. And I will show you guys that when the time comes. Right now is not the time. So we have x. X plus 1, x plus 2 equals 0. See, this is where we get the plus 1. This is where we get the plus 2. The x is something that we already took out. So there's my factors. How many factors do I have? There's 3 factors. All right, so what are my solutions? X can equal what?
0.
It can equal 0, negative 1, and negative 2. Beautiful. Last one. Don't do it until it is all on the same side. It's got to be in standard form first. So let's do that. Let's move the 10 over by doing an inverse operation, and we'll move the 15x over by doing an inverse operation. Let's write out what we have. We have 5x squared plus 15x plus 10. You see how the x's decrease? It goes x squared, then x, and then no x. That's the standard form. It equals, what does it equal? 0. All right. Now, I really wanted to have a leading coefficient here, and so I can show you guys what grouping looks like, but that leading coefficient isn't going to be there for long. Why? So I could factor out of 5. So if I factor out of 5, I get x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. Hey, doesn't this look familiar? It should. It's right here. Okay, so this is 5, x plus 2, x plus 1. We already factored it. My two answers are negative 2 and negative 1. Now, some of you guys might have asked yourself, what is that 5 doing there? How come I'm not setting that equal to 0? Because there's no x with it. So you don't have to worry about him. He doesn't affect the outcome. He will always be a 5. This one will not always be a 2. It could be a 2 or it can be a 0. That's why we have a negative 2, showing that it's 0. All right, take your calculators. Let's try something.